This is the Fujipla ALM3222 Automatic Laminator. Now, this isn't a primer for this machine. It's solely to document a particular problem that we were having with one in Columbia, Missouri, immediately after we sold this machine in 2019. Throughout most of 2020, the customer reported seeing discharge errors very intermittently. In most cases, they could still run the machine, but there was enough of a problem that we decided it should be brought back into Kansas City for inspection. So we're looking at the machine here and got it hooked up on the bench right now. We've got it all set up with a stack of paper on the feeder. We've got an oscilloscope hooked up to the 3 paper position sensors on the machine. And we're going to be able to see the waveforms from those sensor pulses as the machine runs. So we're going to start the machine here. I've got a whole tray of paper. We're feeding in the first sheet. And as a quick reminder, this machine automatically feeds, laminates, cuts, and trims all in one operation. So we see it feeding here, and it's laminating at this point. It's cutting each individual sheet loose from the web, and it's also trimming. On the oscilloscope, we see 2 of the 3 machine sensors, which are currently hooked up. The magenta pulse is showing the state of the feed sensor, and the cyan line shows the state of the discharge sensor. So when each pulse is high, there's paper present at that sensor. And when the pulse is low, paper is not present. So we see those rising pulses, the paper is present at each one of the sensors. Now we see our waveform coming along here, and you'll see that each of the 2 waves, each of the 2 pulses is very similar in appearance to the last one. We see the paper feed in with the magenta line first, and the paper that was already in the machine exits. We see that in the cyan line. So as one sheet of paper, the next sheet of paper, each operation is very much the same duration. So we're looking for deviation in these waveforms, particularly in the cyan line. The magenta line for the feeder is probably never going to mess up. So if we see a problem, we're going to see it in the cyan line. So again, all of this paper that's feeding in the machine right now, it's all running perfectly normal. It's all feeding in properly, it's processed properly, and it's all exiting properly. So let's take a look at the laminator again. And we see the paper coming out here on the exit tray. We see a little bit of waste coming out with the paper, but that's a problem for a different day in video. Looking at the control panel, we've got the heat set all the way up to 270 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really too hot for this film, but is justified since we're trying to force a problem. We have the speed set up to the maximum 68 inches per minute, and we see the cutter and trimmer drives operating. We see the cutter sensor here with 40 as the calibration point, which is normal. Notice that this is the last sheet of paper to drop on the exit tray, because at this point we get a discharge error. And so we see that the cyan line is not going low after the paper drops on the tray. As a matter of fact, the cyan line remains high at this point, even though the paper is exited properly. And so this is the problem. The sensor, the discharge sensor, is clearly defective, and it's still signaling the microprocessor that a sheet of paper is blocking and causing reflection there. So that's what threw the error. We've definitely got a bad discharge sensor that's resulting in the discharge error. So it's really easy to change that sensor. You just remove both operator and non-operator side covers, and there are 6 screws that release the shiny panel on the back, and you can get to that sensor. So I hope you found this video both entertaining and educational. Thank you.